Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 318, and that's 314 weeks in a row. We've been doing this for over 6 years, and what happens over 6 years is a lot of evolution. A lot of things happen. Things change. Things stay the same. One of the things that I am so fortunate about is the people that I have on this broadcast every week, and one is better than the other or the same as the other because they're all freaking fantastic. Today is a really special day for me, as every week is, but it's a little bit more special because the gentleman that is going to be talking with me today is Alec Cheplak. And as you all may know, I have worked and known his dad for probably about 15 years. Respect him. And this person, Mr. John Cheplak, has probably been one of the biggest influences in my life, in my business. And I hope I've had an influence on him. Alec, you are the co-founder of Cheplak Live Wellness. Thanks so much for coming on. And you've been doing this for a good number of years, right?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm close with my dad, but it's always, and I have my love and respect for him. It's always awesome to hear the good things other people have to say. So thanks for giving him credit too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, for those who don't know, met Alex many years ago, really quickly when he was a scrawny little kid. And now he's not scrawny and he's not little anymore. And man, is this kid wise beyond his years. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. In a few seconds. But first, hit the videotape. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Good morning again, everybody. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder, looking to help real estate agents with client acquisition of any type, any kind in their careers, to build careers, new agents, stuck agents, experienced agents, doesn't matter who they are. And one of the things we like to do with this broadcast is help you with different things. Now, it is obvious that Alec Cheplak is not a realtor. He is not a real estate coach. He is not a mortgage person. He is not a title person. He is not in the real estate space, but actually he is. Alec has been, Alec, you're a co-founder of Cheplak Wellness. You believe that the world is filled with a lot of distracting messages about fitness, and you want people to get through that and get to what really is great for them. You're trained and certified by a top Olympian coach. You've dedicated your life to helping others to live healthier, happier lives, right? Through fitness as well as sobriety. You know what? We're going to talk as much as we can about everything that I just mentioned. And I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here, man. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me, even when you were talking about the podcast and how many broadcasts you've done, it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. That's 318 times. And so that's a lot of repetition and patterns and behaviors.
Yeah. And it's one thing that we hear a lot, which is really important in business, Alec, is principles and commitment. Before we get started in that, I do have a quick question for you that I ask everybody who comes on this broadcast. And the question is, what does TGIF stand for?
Oh, isn't it? Thank God it's finale.
Holy shit, you got it right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Thank you, Alec. Congratulations. Great. Thank you. Anyway, all right, man. So fitness, real estate. You worked with a lot of top real estate agents throughout the country. And guys, when I say top, there's no bullshit in that. I mean, these are people that that I admire, that I get to sit in rooms with, and I am the dumbest person in the room, especially when I'm at these events. So talk to me about, let's go back to the nitty-gritty. Let's talk first about your journey, right? Talk to me about your journey and how you got to be where you are and able to work with all these great people. Where did you start? How did you get here? And what were the difficulties that you had to overcome?
Well, I get the chills whenever I think about it. And I appreciate you asking that because it's important to understand.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me. People need to know how much you care before they care how much you know. And this has saved my life and given my family a life beyond my wildest dreams, my son, my wife, etc., and a lot of other families we get to work with as well. I'm 29 years old, somewhere between 13 to 15 years of my own fitness journey. and about, over a decade, like 12 years experience, being an example in leadership and coaching others who came to me when they saw my transformation. And dedicating this many years to something has come with a lot of, yeah, there's been formal education. There's been a lot of formal education, but it's been mostly the trial and error. And so the biggest indicator for me that there needed to be a change before I even was going to coach anyone else was seeing my dad go through his sobriety journey. And so my dad, some of you know his story, some of you do not, and I'm not going to dive into his war story or anything like that, but he ended up getting sober after a lifetime of alcoholism and even alcoholism in the family. And by the time he got sober, I was deep in my own addictions. And so just having that pivotal moment in our bloodline and seeing him get sober, he got in the gym, he got a personal trainer, he started competing. It just planted that seed. And it's funny, my dad actually, when I was in the middle of my mess, he took me out to Culver City, California, and I watched him compete in his first show ever. And that day there was that seed planted. And it wasn't until a year later that I ended up starting the journey of my sobriety journey and then starting my contest prep journey and things like that, getting introduced to those top Olympian coaches and stuff for my own transformation to get sober, stay sober, get fit. And it's been impactful for my bloodline because now my 7-year-old son has a sober father that I didn't have at his age. So it's been massively impactful. It's how I met my wife. It's how we built this business. And we're seeing it change lives in households, married couples, parents, children. And so that's how it all started. That's where my story originated, was in our own need to change our habits.
Right.
And so there's a deep connection and belief in something. And I believe without that deep connection and belief, people aren't going to be motivated or inspired to dedicate over a decade of their life to something. So it's very deep rooted. It means a lot to me. It's very much so a privilege. Every day I get to speak directly to people and even to an audience and help them plant that seed, like that first time I saw my dad compete, and they can walk away and maybe I'll leave them a little bit better off than when I found them. And so we're seeing people transform their lives, and that's what it's all about.
Transformation is something a lot of people look for. I mean, there's so many motivational books out there, and look, I know, I'll admit I've read many of them. And the thing about these books is that we read them and say, okay, that one's done. Next, what's the next great book I'm going to read? If you don't apply shit, you have no chance of really improving yourself. So I say to people, don't read the book if you're not going to do anything with it, right? And it's, for me, like, I just finished a book for the third time. I read it 2 times in a row. I read it 5 years ago, and it's meant so much more to me today than it did then, because my life has changed over the last 6 years of being principled, being committed, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not an overnight journey. Is that correct? Would you agree with that? It's not an overnight journey.
Yeah, I want to address what you've said in a couple key points. I don't ever want to overlook something that I believe has substance to it and I believe will impact someone who could hear it. What I noticed in that dialogue there was, number one, through experience, you're going to learn more than the book.
Yeah.
Always. And number two is that it's not overnight and it takes a long time. And those are extremely important because I think people overlook both those parts. And right now we're in an information overload society where everything's at your fingertips, whether it's Google, YouTube, or even AI. Quite frankly, there's more information in Google, YouTube, and AI than any of the most educated fitness coaches in the world. And so people have access to all the information. And I believe that when we have access to all the information, sometimes a lot of it can be contradictive. And so it makes it more difficult to learn through reading than it is through going on your path and taking bits and pieces of information based off real life experience and finding what's applicable to self. So that's a big one. Through real life experience, you're going to learn more than you will from a textbook. And I know because I taught in a formal classroom setting. So I taught kinesiology, biomechanics, anatomy, physiology, fitness nutrition, exercise psychology, all of these great textbooks and certifications. But I learned more interacting, communicating, and actually practicing in the field with real human beings and doing the work than anything I could ever read in a textbook. So that's number one. Number two, it's a long journey. Like I said, I'm 29. This has been over a third, close to a half of my life now, dedicated to one path with a lot of ups and downs. And so that's something I get to talk with people daily about, that real time, real life, real obstacles, and what's the next practical solution based off circumstances.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's, we talked about this briefly this week. I mean, there's so many things out there, and we'll use the word distractions. We can use the word choices. We can use so many different things. I mean, I look at choice when you're reading a book. Okay, so you're reading a book, and so you want to get something out of it. That's why you pick it up. But the way you experience, I just mentioned, I read a book just twice recently, and then from a number of years ago. And as I read it again, I realized what was going on, and I could relate every chapter in that book to what I'm going through today, right? I could relate to it, which allowed me to learn more about it. And probably I'm more invested in it personally. And when you get more invested in what you really want, it makes life and make understanding a lot easier. What are the difficulties, Alec, with understanding that you should be real, that you need to be really invested in? Is there a way to get really invested in your health, your nutrition, and building a business and building a life as you have?
Yeah. Surface level's never going to do it, man. It just never is. Not long term, anyways. It never will. And there's depth and substance to the human being and the human experience. And we always say, like, you're not in the real estate business. I'm not in the fitness business. We're in the human attraction, human resource, and human development business. And so when we can dig deeper on like who you really are and what really drives you, you're more likely to actually sustain action long term on anything. And so I don't believe, because I'm big on metrics. So I'm big on like track your food, track your steps, track your workouts, and we can get there. But again, that surface level, I genuinely do not believe anyone's inspired by that to-do list of saying track your food, track your steps, track your workouts. But I do believe, and I hear this from Dean Graciosi, and so I've been loving it recently. But the reality is people are motivated and inspired to either move away from pain
Right.
or move toward pleasure. And so that's why I always start and preface with why this has depth to me and my family, is because I've moved away from that pain that alcoholism or drug addiction brought into family or friendships. And I've moved toward that pleasure of my son is never going to have to experience that. He has a sober father at 7. And so when you can get to the depth root of it, people are more likely to sustain something long term. Like if I didn't have that deep drive, I would have given up a long time ago, dude.
Alec, is it important to move away from pain and move toward pleasure at the same time? It sounds like a weird question, I know.
I would say that they're kind of, it's beautiful because they're two different things that can help you identify different motivators, and based off your emotion and feeling, you may be more aware of one at a time than the other, but they're one and alike because they're on opposite ends. And so as you move away from pain, by default, you go toward pleasure. So you definitely do both at the same time. And I think it also helps to put in perspective the fact that we shouldn't just try to eliminate or restrict habits. We should try to replace them. And so just replacing those destructive habits that were causing pain, the addiction to alcohol, the addiction to drugs, or, over consumption of food, that's a very real addiction too. And moving toward that pleasure as that are the outcomes as a result of exercise, nutrition, taking better care of your health, these things, and you can replace these things. So I believe that it is one journey in the same. I believe that you very much so do both at the same time, but based off your awareness, you may not be able to recognize it in the moment. Like the pain may be such a big indicator that that's all you can really think about, and that's fine.
Right.
I always tell people go as far as you can see, and then you can see farther, especially when there's a delayed gratification, something you might only see the pain right now. But as you go farther and get a better outcome, now you're going to become aware of the pleasure and the outcomes that you want to experience on the other side.
Okay, so I want to talk about that point really, really quickly. To go as far as you can go and then go farther requires a commitment. It requires a matter of choice. Okay, it's probably the most difficult thing in the world. I mean, working with, as I do, I work with newer real estate agents and trying to get them to understand the commitment that has to be made to whatever their lead gen client acquisition issue is, whatever they're afraid of, et cetera, et cetera. I have to try to get them through that. And and is probably the biggest difficulty I have. Now, the reason that you see great coaches out there having great success is because these people come to those coaches when they are ready. A lot of times people want to get into the real estate business and they say they're ready, but they're not ready to do the work. It's the same with fitness. And I'm going to liken it to and equate it to the New Year's resolution people going to the gym. Honestly, the first couple of weeks of January is hell in most gyms because a lot of people are there because they made this resolution. They just joined the gym or whatever it is, right? I love mornings like today when there's nobody there personally, but that's beside the point. So you've got to get through that first couple of weeks. Says, yeah, I'm really excited to get this done, and I really want to take care of my body. What's the trick? Is there something I'm missing when I'm working with these agents, or is there a trick to it to get people to buy in?
Yeah, I would say a few things to address what you've said. I do believe that the New Year resolution or any of those pivotal moments or points in time are a overall net positive. I'm never going to discourage people when they have that pivotal starting point. Like, okay, that might be the seed that was planted for you.
Yes.
And even if you do quote unquote fail there, it was an attempt, and then you may revisit it later. You may be more likely to revisit something later if you've attempted once. But I do believe, here's the trick. You want to know the trick?
Yeah, I do.
If you want to get ahead and get exceptional results, do the opposite of what everyone else is doing.
You got to go deeper, dude.
Today, you're there and the whole gym's empty.
Yep.
Or everyone else is hungover and sleeping in. What'd you do? You went to the gym.
Yep.
So like the trend of New Year resolution is what everyone else is doing. But today, the day after a holiday, is the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So that's a very specific example. Another one is like when you travel or during the holidays. So like the final 6 weeks of the year, 50 to 90% of your annual weight gain is in the final 6 weeks of the year. 50 to 90% of people's annual weight gain is in the final 6 weeks of the year. So you want to get ahead, do the work through that time when other people back off. And so it's the same thing with the real estate right now. How many people left the industry? What, 70,000 agents last year?
Yep.
So now do the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing. Dive deeper into the industry, right? Get closer with the people who are in it. And so that's a big one there, is like when everyone goes left, go right.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things that I would like to add to all of this is one of the things that's been very successful for me and very helpful for me is that I don't talk about, like, for instance, I used to smoke cigarettes. Okay. And I don't talk about, I quit smoking. I say the last cigarette I had, let's see, what's today? Today is July 5th. So my last cigarette was 6 years, 4 months, 29 days, and about 23 hours ago. It's a streak for me. This broadcast, 314 weeks in a row, 318 broadcasts. It's a streak for me. And one of the things that keeps me going is my commitment to that, which means the relation is that I'm healthier today. You know, I took a 3-week trip abroad, and when I got back, I said, you know, I'm not missing days anymore for the gym or fitness for my health. So today was 6 in a row. So I had to start a new streak. Right? I missed some days, honestly, when I was traveling, planned. And so now it's a streak for me. And I think that's the way we look at it, is do what everybody else isn't doing. That's why I had to get to the gym today, because I committed and decided I'm not getting distracted by things that used to distract me again. I used to not work out on weekends. Now I'm doing something every day. So for me, that's how it works. So I want to talk about distractions, right? So someone wants to get into what we're doing. Talk to me about the evolution of what you've been able to do with a lot of different people. And we talked a little bit about distractions the other day, and that there's so much information out there. And you mentioned a little bit earlier. So let's get into that and actually talk about fitness and nutrition for people.
Okay. Here's what I will say is that the distractions, there's pros and cons to everything, right? And I believe one of the biggest distractions right now with health and fitness is the internet, right? It's like the social media, the Google, the YouTube, like Instagram, Facebook. That can be one of the biggest distractions. Even softwares and apps and tools, there's 100 different fitness apps. So people are distracted because they have too many options. But I do also believe that's your greatest resource. If you can slim down your options and just choose one, like choose one path or one source of info and follow with it. And so that's what's evolved with what we've been able to do with our coaching programs, is, yes, we know they're distracted. We know where they hang out. They're on Facebook. We can bring forward a relevant message and build a community. So whether you're part of our fitness community, because we have a similar message within our community, or you find another one, it doesn't need to be with us. I believe that's your biggest cheat code there, is getting in proximity with other people who either doing what you want to do at a high level or coaching other people do what you want to do at a high level, and then kind of putting your blinders on and opting out of your other options there. But that's what's evolved, is instead of having to be forced in the gym with a personal, like a trainer as a client, or me training one-on-one with a client, because of these platforms, we're able to contribute massive value one to many instead of one to one. So really getting in your right niche, like getting in your right group, finding your tribe, your community, that's going to be a massive indicator of how far you're going to go and where you're going to go. And so it's like a rising tide lifts all ships. So whether it's with the community of people you're looking for leadership, or in your own household, just know that that open discussion in your household is another tip and trick, is have that discussion with your significant other frequently. Have that discussion with your kids. Have that discussion in the workplace. I coach, for example, recently, one of my clients, I've been coaching him for 10 months now, Parker, and he recently ranked top 1 EXP team in the country. And it's all up and down, back and forth. They're all like close runnings,
Yeah.
but recently was ranked number 1 EXP in the country. And he said the biggest thing that changed is once and he doesn't brag about it, but he'll talk about it. So that's why I'll bring it up. But he got sober, he quit drinking, he started taking care of his health and fitness. He got clear in his habits, his disciplines, and it carried over into the office space, and it's a total different culture. And so your proximity matters. The example you set for others matters. Who you're being influenced by matters, and getting in a niche group and kind of blocking out the noise.
Okay. So when we talk about sobriety and we talk about that, the question I have is, people, when we talk about that he got sober and stuff, was he just stopped drinking, and was that just it? It wasn't an issue altogether, but it just helped him focus better?
Yeah, he goes, and we've had open dialogue around this, and he goes, I don't know if it was a problem. Was it? Maybe, but was it contributing to my growth?
That's a great line. That's a great point, and that's why I asked the question, because and we talk about a lot of there's a lot of different reasons why people do that. Talk about the best way for someone to get started. I mean, like you said, there's lots of apps out there, and I know you talk about a few of them, and actually a couple of them that you really recommend. And it goes along with how to build your fitness to be a better human being and be better at what you do for a living, whether it's real estate or running other businesses, whatever it is. Talk to me about that and how that works out.
Okay, so your easiest point of entry, like activities wise, I'll give you just a little checklist. Anyone watching this, take note. If you're watching live or you watch it later, just take note of this and then go do it. Your easiest point of entry right now, if you're doing nothing, is 3 to 5 days a week of strength training. So you could literally do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, chest, shoulder, tricep Monday, a push day, back biceps Wednesday, a pull day, and then a full legs workout on Friday. Number 1, that's your non-negotiable. Number 2, 10K steps daily, or 30 minutes of zone 2 heart rate cardio, sustained 5 times weekly. So there's a formula for that. It's 220 minus your age equals your maximum heart rate. Then multiply your maximum heart rate times 0.7, and that's mid-range zone 2. You want to sustain that heart rate for 30 minutes 5 times weekly. Next point of entry, set a calories budget and make a meal plan with foods you actually enjoy enough to eat consistently within your calories budget. Let's say you're at 2,000 calories a day. You can choose 3, 4, or 5 meals a day. Let's say you prefer 4. That's 4 meals at 500 calories per meal. And now you pull from your staples food list, favorite proteins, favorite carbs, favorite fats, fruits, vegetables, even your favorite restaurants. In each of these meals, you make protein the star of the show. You make either your favorite fruit or vegetable the co-host. And then I laugh. I call your favorite carbs and fats, they're like the backup dancers. So now you have 4 meals at 500 calories per meal with protein, fruits and veggies first, fill in your remaining calories budget with each meal with your favorite carbs and fats, and then actually track it. You can use MyFitnessPal. If I had a discount code or coupon code, I'd be rich by now. But no benefit to me to start using it. And always commit to staying within 100 calories over or under your calories budget. This is literally how we would give a client a nutrition plan. So now we've covered strength training,
Yep.
steps or cardio,
Yep.
and a meal plan. You can literally go do it yourself with what I've just told you.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you've just gotten the basic way to get yourself in great physical shape, to take care of yourself, and to also eat right. So, that out of the way, let's talk about people that I don't want to track shit. I just want to go to the gym. I'll do some running or I'll do some lifting. Let's talk about the important part. Look, is it true or false? I don't do anything now, but if I start running, I'm going to lose tons of weight and get stronger. True or false?
You'll make progress, but not necessarily lose tons of weight, especially if you're not aware of food, because it's also likely going to increase your appetite. And so in most cases, if someone's currently overeating and their appetite goes up, it may be not a net negative when it comes to their energy balance. So they might actually increase their food consumption. So like if you're running at a pace that puts you in a deficit and your calories stay the same, you can start losing some weight. Yeah. Can running strengthen some bones and things like that? It can. Are you going to get very physically stronger from running? No, it's not progressive overload necessarily. It's not progressive resistance training. So there could be some benefits to running, but here's what I would say with running. Unless you have a love and passion for it, which is great. If you have a love and passion for it, there's a lot of benefits to running. I'm not demonizing it at all. But I typically never recommend actually running to a client unless they are struggling with their VO2 max and their heart and lung capacity, or if they have a sport specific goal, like you're going to play soccer or play basketball. So with fat loss, I typically recommend low heart rate cardio. But you're going to want to do a complete lifestyle intervention rather than just a cardio intervention.
So the reason I asked the question is I kind of assumed what the answer would be, and it's what I thought it would be. And the reason I asked the question is we talked the other day about the best way to start, and that's tracking what you're doing today, right? So talk about that. Talk about the app, because I think this is really a key for me, because I told you before we went on that I'm starting to do that now myself. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so awareness and clarity are key. So like earlier, you asked me a question. I gave you a one-liner. You said go deeper. And so also earlier before this started, because you were like, what's the trick? I said, do the opposite of everyone else. You're like, tell me more, go deeper. And so then I did. And it's the same thing with nutrition. So before we started this, you said, my nutrition's not that bad.
That's right.
Well, just so everyone knows, not that bad is not an accurate measurement.
Correct.
And so that's the indicator of clarity or lack thereof when it comes to nutrition. And it's not a judgment on you. It's an observation.
Yes.
And it's 99% of the time when I ask someone, how's your diet? How's your nutrition? Or I'll even say, how many calories are you eating? And they'll backtrack and say, well, I don't eat that bad. I've been eating better. And so there's no clear, concise, and just there's no data. There's no ground to stand on. And so that's the benefit of tracking is awareness. So if you literally made 0 dietary changes today and you just started tracking exactly what you're already doing, and you did this for 7 to 14 days in a row, you will have a massive enlightening moment, aha moment, because you'll see exactly what's happening. And so that's the first nutrition intervention prior to even changing anything, is just track what you're already consuming. And you can look at that and get a clear picture. And also, you're smart. People are smart, man. People are more informed than ever. Like actually, like you have the information. You can look at your food for a week or two. And even if you're not well versed or well educated on the science of nutrition, you'll know what could be a little less, or you'll know what could be a little more. You'll start to have these self-discovery moments that are going to be more impactful than anything I could ever tell you.
No, absolutely. And that's the most important part, really. And I want everybody to understand that if, when I said my nutrition's not that bad, when you say that line, it also means it's not that good.
Right. Right.
It's like, how was the restaurant last time? It wasn't bad. But it wasn't good then, right? So I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny. That's good perspective. I'm gonna start saying that.
think
That's
about that,
funny.
man. I mean, oh, it wasn't bad. They didn't say it was pretty good or it was okay. They said it wasn't that bad. What the
Here's
fuck? I mean, come on.
Can I speak on that perspective?
Yes, yes,
Because
absolutely.
I love that you said that because I believe look, I've never been inspired by the textbook. I was inspired by that psychology and behavior change and lifestyle change. And that's what drove me to read the textbook. And that's what drove me to get certified. And that's what drove me to keep going when I felt like giving up. And so what you're talking about is the psychology of it. And
Right.
so I believe this is like 10% fitness, nutrition, and training info. Like I'll give you guys the info. That's easy. I got the info. Just ask. I'll tell you directly. I have no
Right.
secrets, but it's 90% the psychology. And let me touch on that.
Please do.
One thing in psychology is that people are comparing in the wrong direction. And so what I mean by that, because a lot of people say comparison is the thief of joy. And I believe my dad has a slightly different take on it. He says comparison without judgment is powerful for your transformation. It'll give you a breakthrough. And so what I mean by comparing in the wrong direction is saying not that bad. And so that's like saying, say someone's been struggling being overweight their whole life, right? Just a case study here. And they're 100 pounds overweight or 60 pounds overweight, right? You with me? And what has stopped them from starting is saying, well, I'm not 200 pounds overweight. I'm not 400 pounds. I'm not 300 pounds. And so they're comparing in the wrong direction. And that's what I mean by not, like what you said, not that bad. Well, you're not actually where you really want to be either. And
Right.
so I believe if people can compare up, and even if they don't use other people like, oh, you're up, you're better than me. No, compare up to a better version of self, and they can keep their eyes in that direction when it comes to comparison. I believe it's going to be a big breakthrough from them. So it's like, well, you know, here's a big one. It's like, well, at least, I can still walk up and down a staircase without getting out of breath. I'm like, but what about going and running and playing catch with your kids? Can you do that? So it's like comparing in the wrong direction, right? And so they're comparing down instead of comparing up. You're capable of so much more. And it really has to do with your standards and expectations of self.
You just hit a nerve with me. And, well, my biggest problem that I've had as I've gotten older is I'm working out, but I was working out in the wrong direction. And what I mean by that is what's important to me. Well, I'm doing work on my house. I told you before we started, I'm a big do-it-yourselfer. It was harder for me to get off the floor. I mean, I don't know why. It just was strange. And I said, you know what? I don't want that to happen anymore. I now have an almost 2-year-old grandson, and I want to get up and down off the floor with him. Guess
Mhm.
what? I've started to be able to do that. And if you continue and have consistency and commitment in what you're doing, you're going to be able to get up and down from the floor. I know that doesn't sound like a big freaking deal at all, but as you get older, it really is. Right. And you just said it, and look, I'll be honest with you. My biggest challenge is going up and down stairs. I don't know why, but it's getting better because of what I'm trying to do and what I'm working on to get there, right? So when you talk about going up and down stairs and getting up and down with your kids, that's really important to me. And I think it should be important to a lot of people. That's simple health and fitness, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
I mean, that's quality of life, man. Quality
Hell
of life. So like I get the chills, and that's with the breakthrough. But here's what I want, Dave. I want, and I'm super grateful that you had that experience where those things were difficult, because now you have contrast, and now you're like, look at you now. You were at the gym this morning after a holiday. I want people to have contrast, and without the contrast, my message isn't going to hit close to home. But here's the thing: now that you've done that, what's next? And you can even become more physically capable, even at your age. And I believe that, like, as a general population, a lot of us, and myself, and I'm no exception here, man. It takes us until like a crisis or like an,
it
excuse
does.
my language, an oh shit moment
Oh,
before
shit.
we're like, I need to do something about this. And so why I keep bringing forward this message every day is because I want to have people, um, I want them to hear it enough times where one day eventually it sticks, maybe even before they hit their crisis.
Absolutely, absolutely correct, man. I mean, it's for me, it was like, you say, what's next, right? So, look, I'm almost 67 years old, and that's a scary fucking number. I'm sorry, it just is for me, right? But I know that I want to be able to do what I'm doing today, next year, the year after, as I move forward. You look at okay, so I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if it's a fair example, but look at like the Rolling Stones are still out there in concert. Look at what somebody was talking about this morning. I heard on the radio was talking about shit. I don't know. Think about anybody that you like for that's from the 80s. I mean, I the 80s was my decade, right? 70s and 80s. That's I grew up 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think they call that the decade of sin. I'm not sure, but but with all those people that were great there, Billy Joel, and you see them out there, they're in their 70s, 80s, and they're performing. I saw Frankie Valli last year, who is 89 or 90 years old, and the guy still can do it. That's what I want. I want to be
Yeah.
able to do what I'm doing today then. And
Mhm.
you know what? If I can live forever, that would be fine too. Maybe I don't want to, but that's the point. You say, what's next? What's next is to maintain bottom line and then to get better and better and better. That's
Mhm.
what I want personally. And I know I can do it. I know I can do it. So if I can do it, anybody is capable of doing it. If they is it desire, is it choice? What is it?
Well, you had that oh shit moment. And that gives you some fire. And I think people need an edge. It's an edge. So like you continuing to be able to do what you are currently doing next year and the year after is an edge. It's an unfair advantage. And without your health and fitness, without your dedication around this journey that you're on, without you being there this morning, you lose that edge. People need an edge in life. And whether it's in your health and fitness right now, whether it's in the real estate space right now, we all need an edge that gives us 1% upper hand. And
So
your health and fitness is your unfair advantage in life. And that's what's going to enable you to continue. And I don't want to act like it's the solution or the cure to cancer. Like, because I understand and I have empathy for people who have life-threatening health concerns that are beyond their control. My sister was born with tetralogy of Fallot. She's had 26 heart surgeries. I spent many days, weeks, nights, and birthdays in the hospital with my sister. And although I've only experienced a small fraction of what she felt, and it's been an emotional experience for me, she conquers this daily and it's beyond her control. She'll be in the gym lifting weights or trying to do a little bit just to do a little better. She's not like this example of health and fitness, but she's an example of someone who conquers every single day with a limiting condition that's beyond her control. And so what I want people to do is, one, really cherish that if you're not in that scenario, and two, prevent it, because it's kind of like, if you've been fortunate enough to not be stricken with something beyond your control like that, you do have the privilege of controlling and reducing the outcomes of things like that in the future. And so, excluding those scenarios, what's the last 10 years of your life going to look like?
yeah, well, you know what? You just gave me chills because I know very well your sister's story and stuff, and geez, it's just it's pretty amazing to look at that and look at what people have overcome to overcome fitness, overcome the lack of fitness, overcome the lack of lethargy. I mean, the getting over lethargy and moving forward and getting off your ass, right? I mean, it's got a lot to do with that. It's got a lot with the inertia of getting off the couch. I use that as a phrase, not as a literal thing. So we get better at fitness, we get better at our nutrition. Is there a direct relation to having a better business?
I'd argue so. There's
I would
always
too.
outliers and exceptions, but here's what I will say. I want to go the opposite direction and then dive into that direction. I want to compare down a little because I think that's most people are in that mindset. And so I want to speak the language and meet them where they're at. So instead of comparing the correlation between better fitness and better business, let's go opposite and speak the language of our society. And it is there a benefit to being obese in your business? Is there a benefit to being intoxicated or under the influence in your business? Is there a benefit to being in a hospital or doctor's office with consequences? Does that benefit your business? Is there a benefit to being physically weak and low energy to your business? Is there a benefit to any of these things? Is there a benefit to poor quality or lack of duration of sleep in your business? Like being incapable or incapacitated based off lifestyle choices, is there any benefit to your business? And then now let's go the opposite direction. I've never heard someone say, I got fit, I got healthy, I got sober, and my business fell apart.
Right. Never heard it either.
I've never heard it once. But I will say I've seen a lot of clients, and we got receipts, man. A lot of clients who got sober, got fit, got healthy, business has grown past anything it's ever been in the past in 13 plus years. I had a guy who said, hey, I went through the data of when I was tracking my food the most with you, when I was tracking my workouts the most with you, when I spoke with you and your wife via direct and text every day the most. And I had the highest income in 13 years of my real estate experience. And guess what? Right now it's a down market. We're talking lifetime career, new records in businesses, just because people have made that dedication to their health and fitness and their clarity around it, even in a down market.
I want everybody to understand that what he talks is truth. There's no question about this. I mean, I know these people myself. I could give you names, and so can Alec, but that's not the point, right? The point is, there's a lot of distractions, a lot of choice. We've talked about that already. So Alex, I want you to talk about choice. I want you to talk about one of the things we talked about is here's what you can do. You either do this, you do that. Talk to me about that. Which do you want to do?
You mean choice, like just like ways to get fit and healthy, or you mean choice of like which direction to go with your life?
The which pitch.
The which pitch? Either or?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big one. The which pitch when it comes to health and fitness is impactful because I believe people do, and it's funny, go pull up a dictionary, you'll probably be like, dude, it's the same thing. And it probably is. So there's rules and there's guidelines. But I make up my own definitions of these words because it gets the message.
No, I mean that's why I ask you the question. That's why
yeah.
I'm having this conversation.
So a lot of it's your own perspective, and here's my perspective. There's a difference between rules and guidelines, and they might be the same in the dictionary. But rules are very strict, like you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you can only do it this way. That's rules in my perspective. Guidelines are maybe there's more than one way to do it. And so what I believe is extremely impactful on people's fitness journeys is when you give them the choice, because then they can have self-discovery. And so the option, it's the which pitch. It's option A or option B. You can either get a gym membership, or I'll send you a free equipment list to have at home. You can either do 10K steps daily or 30 minutes of zone 2 heart rate cardio. You can either, and so finding these which pitches in your choices with your health and fitness is going to be a big breakthrough from you to have two options, narrow it down, narrow all this distraction, all this information, all this overwhelm down to two options and pick one, right? And so now you have rules. There's a difference between rules and guidelines. So a guideline is parameters where you can play within these guidelines, but you do still have the power of choice within there. You don't feel so restricted where you're going to be forced out of it too soon. You have enough free roam where I've seen people take action and sustain action for extended periods of time. This is how people have long-term successes. You have to be disciplined with the desires and your commitments and habits, but you want to be flexible with your methods.
I agree 100%. And I want to add a couple of things to that. I mean, you said there's guidelines and there's rules. There's also things that you do on a regular basis, and you get into, some people might use the word ritual. Some people might use the word routine, but here's the thing. My which pitch is going to be this. Here, guys, you got a choice. Get your ass off the couch and do something about what you're complaining about. Or stay where you are. I don't want to hear you complaining. That's a simple which pitch from Dave's Finale, right?
I love it. I love it.
It's simple, right? And the other thing is that people will tell others, or they'll tell me what their goals are in life. And one of the things I learned from this other great man we've been talking about one of the questions I always ask them is, okay, so you want all these things, whether it's, then we're talking about nutrition and health and fitness and all that stuff. The question I would ask them is, when you tell me you want all those things, would be, how would I know? Right? So, Dave, I want to do 2 deals a month and I want to be able to take care of my family. It'll change their lives. I said, okay, you want to do that. And you've been working on that how long? 6 months, but I haven't been able to get there. Okay, so that's what you want to do. How would I know that's what you want to do? How would I know you want to get to 2 deals a month? By you sitting on your ass and saying, well, I made some calls, or I did this, or I did that. I talked to a couple of people today. To me, that's not that means you're fooling yourself and you're lying to yourself, because that's full of shit. You're full of shit, right? You have to really have a full commitment. And what is a commitment? A commitment is that you will do whatever it fucking takes and be as uncomfortable as you have to be to get to where you want to go. That's the definition, my definition of commitment.
Yeah.
And that's what you really need.
And so I love that. And I believe here's where it gets confusing for people, though, is because they might, from their perspective, they emotionally might actually feel like they're doing whatever it takes. So like what you're saying is required. They might say, hey, Dave, or hey, Alec, but I feel like I'm doing that. And this is why you need to track. This is why you need to use the CRM in your business. This is why you need to use MyFitnessPal with your food. This is why you need to use Trainerize with your strength training. That's why you need to track your steps, because they might feel like they're actually, you said, I've been working on it for 6 months. I'm not getting what I want. Open the CRM.
You just took the words right out of my mouth, right? So here's the thing. I mean, for years and years and years, I try to get people to use a CRM. People, well, which one should I use? I don't give a shit. Whatever one you're going to use, right? What gym should I go to? I don't care. Whichever one's close to you. Maybe it's the cheaper one you want to go to. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the one where everybody looks good, or where everybody looks fatter than you. I don't care, right? It's tracking. So for me today, when I'm working with agents, it's all about, okay, so you're having an issue. Let's talk about your schedule. Show me your schedule again. However you revise it, where's the issue, right? Okay, so I've been making calls. Okay, let's go into your CRM. Let's see what you've got. You just said it.
Yeah.
Right?
So let me say something.
Go.
This is the breakthrough. This is 90% of my job as a coach. Okay.
Yes.
When someone comes forward to me, and don't get me wrong, we have clients who crush it, who are killers, who are in the best shape of their lives. We have ones who, even though they're making good progress, they might feel like they're stuck or they hit a plateau. Well, here's the question to ask. Are you really in a plateau, or has there been a lapse in your commitment? And so what I do is, when these conversations come up, I pull up their Trainerize app and I pull up their MyFitnessPal before I respond to the text. And I can sit down and I can say, the past 4 weeks, you had 20 workouts scheduled. You did 10 out of 20. That's 50% compliance in training. Over the past 4 weeks, you had a 2,000 calorie goal, or whatever the number is. Okay. More than half of your days were 500 calories over. That's a 40% compliance with nutrition. And they're like, Alec, how come I'm not getting 100% results like these other people? Because you have between a 40 to 50% compliance, because you've tracked the metrics, you've tracked the activities. And now we can beg the question, are you really in a plateau, or has there been a lapse in your commitment? And sometimes there may be a lack of awareness. And so our clients, they're aware of what the standards are. There's minimum standards of activities that we require in order to even bring someone on as a client. And the reason we have these minimum standards of activities is because they're tested, they're proven, they're what we walk, they're what we talk, and they're what are transforming clients' lives. And they give us ground and foundation to stand on when it's time to have a logical discussion when someone feels like they're not where they should be. We can reference back to the daily minimum standards of activities. We can reference back to the data over an extended period of time.
Right.
And within the past 4 weeks, we can say you got X result because of Y activity.
So one of the things I've learned from what you're saying and tracking everything, what I have learned is that when I'm tracking what I'm doing, it's just weight and body fat percentage. Those two things I look at. Look, my methods are really not that great, but when I can see what I'm doing and see where it's at, I know, okay, well, I know if I ate stuff that I shouldn't, I overate or ate stuff I shouldn't. I know what it is. I know what I'm doing, especially if I'm tracking it. If I don't want to get on the scale one day or measure that one day, I know why, because I don't want to see the bad numbers, right? But I'm going to do that. I've committed to doing that on a regular basis. And that's the important part. If look, it's really simple. Have you fulfilled the commitments you made to yourself this week? Have you done that? And if you hadn't, what got in your way? This is, again, I've learned this in that great man we've been talking about, right? The thoughts of the commitment questions. Are you ready to recommit? It's not the end of the world if you go off track, but just understand that it's all about you. It's not about anybody else. And the question that you brought up, the point that you brought up earlier, Alec, is share it with your significant other. Share it with your kids. Like when I talk about schedule and CRM, share your schedule with your family so they know exactly what you're up to and tell them what your goals and commitments are. Why? Because guess what? Because they love you, they will help you stay accountable. And we all know that accountability is the highest form of love.
I shared a post, I believe it was yesterday. Alignment in your household or lack thereof is going to either be your greatest lever for growth or the greatest ceiling on your progress on any area of life. And I can say that confidently because it's the number one thing that I have the most clarity on, most awareness of, and I'm most grateful for with my marriage, with my wife. We have complete alignment in everything that we do and all that we do. And I don't believe this is something that just happens. Everyone is very different. Believe me, my wife and I, very different human beings. Okay. Different generations, different ages, different experience, different background, different interests. We're very different. And I believe that alignment is something that obviously it can't be forced. Like we do have similar passions. We do have similar love, stuff like that. But alignment is a choice, and it's a consistent, repetitive choice over and over and over and over. And whenever you steer too far apart, you reel it back into alignment. And I believe if people, married couples, parents, families, team leaders, broker owners, coworkers, peers, started to bring forward an open discussion daily about alignment with similar interests, alignment with similar outcomes they want to experience, you and your peers or significant other, and alignment with a shared path that you can walk to create these outcomes and experiences, your life can go to a completely different level in all areas, in fitness, business, your relationships, everything.
Yeah, and the sharing of what you want to do is the important part. Having I'm going to tell you that, you know what, I've been a loner my entire life, and you know, I finally personally my personal strengths is working with people that want to work. And I'm so fortunate now where I am in my professional life to be able to have that. And I suggest to everyone that as far as working out, I mean, look, you can't always find someone to do it with, but you know what? There are people in the gym that are just like you, and you're surrounding yourself with them. So don't worry about not having somebody to do it with, because that's always sometimes hard to do. But know that the people you go to the gym with, talk to them, have conversations with them. You know, if you need help, ask them. I mean, sure, they're not the experts, but you know what? If they've been there every day like you are, they're going to know a little bit more than you might, and they're willing to answer the questions. Alec, we've been going on and on and on, and we haven't gotten to this part yet. I want you to talk about that. I just put a link on the screen for everybody for something that Alec's given you today for joining our broadcast today.
Okay. I'm crystal clear and committed to my mission. I'm coaching people to create a better experience in their personal and professional life through fitness. That is regardless of a transaction or payment. So serving this mission to grow our Cheplak community, to be that example and inspiration so you can get in alignment with us, to be able to extend a hand and actually give you practical real life advice you can go execute on. Here's my free offer. What I'm willing to do is if you go to getfitstayfitforfree.com/Alec, I'm going to contribute directly to you via email, via text message. You get free coaching for life. I'm not going anywhere. This is a mission I'm on. And I do this for two reasons. One, to make maybe one person watch this live and they go through our free offer and I give them some advice and they go execute and their life got a little bit better because of it. That's enough for me. I want you to have a better experience in your health and fitness as a direct result of this offer. Number one. And number two, I want to build the community, because what if no one else in your family, like, that's the thing. What if watching this, no one in their family's in alignment on health and fitness, or they all are, but in the wrong direction? Well, maybe they can be a part of our community and we can have that influence on them as well. So that's why this offer's here. That's why I'm going to contribute to your fitness journey long-term for free. And maybe you'll be that example for the people around you as well.
So this goes, ladies and gentlemen, this goes to a simple line that you said earlier in this broadcast, Alec, was no one's going to know. What was it again? It was, and I use it all the time.
No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, exactly. So I fumble with that. I don't know why, but I believe in it, and that's why I give what I give. I mean, look, the work that I do it on a daily basis, and I only have to do it until someone does something. But I'm committed to everyone I've ever worked with, everyone who knows that. If you worked with me 10 years ago, you call me, I'm there for you. You text me, I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to help you. And that's very similar to what Alec is doing, but Alec's going out there and doing some great stuff here. I've had the pleasure of seeing you speak, Alec, and seeing you present, and it's been great. And it's in those rooms that I'm talking about, of being the dumbest person in the room. It's in those rooms where you're surrounded by people. And guess what? As you keep going to those rooms and you keep communicating with these people, you're going to learn a lot more. Just like watching this broadcast. And if you go back to my 317 previous broadcasts, there's a lot of education and a lot of learning to do through those. And I'm going to be very selfish and tell you why I'm very selfish with this broadcast. It's not that I want to keep doing it. It's just that I have more and more to learn. And a lot of stuff that I've asked you today and talked to you about is to help me as well as help the people that I work with on a daily basis. So I do this broadcast out of selfishness so I can be selfless with everybody else and help them as much as possible.
I would agree. And I appreciate all that. And I think that's a testament to the fact that if you want to be of service to others, you have to be of service of self first, and absorb all the best info or create the best experience you can, so you can share it with others. So I love that.
So Alec, what have I missed today? What have we missed in our conversation today? Did we miss anything? I mean, I think we got great basis for everything we've talked about.
I think it's great, man. I could go all day. Like, it's never ending. So there's always more to talk about and more in-depth discussion. But I believe that the conversation, I enjoyed it very much. So I hope you did as well. And I hope you got some value from it. And I think there's enough where someone could get one key takeaway. And if they would just go execute on one thing we talked about today, they could create a better experience. So there was no value missed, in my opinion.
Without question. Thank you. Here's the thing, man. I mean, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll complete our conversation for the day. First question is, you don't know where to get started. Is MyFitnessPal a place to get started for everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, MyFitnessPal. Literally just start tracking what you're already doing and have some self-discovery.
That's great. So I got one question and one other thing. The question is, Alec, from the bottom of my heart, how can I help you grow your business?
You already did it today, man. Just share the message with other people who actually need it.
Awesome. Great. And just before we forget, guys, next week broadcast, we've got, if you want to learn about how follow-up works, this is the man, Daniel Spitz. He's the founder and CEO of Captivate Real Estate Group in Chicago. He's a part of a line. He's doing deals that he started talking to people over 6 years ago, and he's got proof of that. He's going to talk about follow-up. We're going to talk about his journey as well. Today we've got and I'm going to say this with all love, the great Alec Cheplak joined us today. And last but not least, Alec, I know, like you've talked to other people that have been on this broadcast, and don't forget, the hat is coming.
Let's go, baby.
It's coming. And
I love it.
If I don't see you before, I hope to see you in Tahoe, because I will be there again.
Yes, I will be. My wife and I, Shannon and I, will be there speaking again. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it again. And if anybody's interested, reach out to myself. I'll tell you all about the Tahoe event. You're going to have to get in a little bit better shape to do it, because we do a nice, wonderful hike the day before it gets started, which is
a little 20-minute hike.
It's a 20-minute hike. Yeah. Well, my round trip last year was 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
That 20-minute hike was 7.5 hours. It was exhilarating. It was a learning experience with great people. You nice groups. Anyway, hey man, this has been so cool. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been really excellent. I don't know if I missed anything, but what I tell you is just do me a favor, stay on a little bit after we finish. Next week we got Dan Spitz. This has been great. Happy July 4th to everybody. See you next week. Hit it.